Hello fellow coffee botherers. In this video I'm going to be reviewing the Breville One Touch Coffee House, or the Mr. Coffee One Touch Coffee House in America. This has been one of the best selling coffee machines on Amazon and Currys for the past couple of years, but I think some people may be buying it under false pretenses, basically buying it based on a myth, which I'll explain in a sec. This is version 1, they've just released version 2, and what I'm saying in this video goes for that machine too. Just to be clear, I'm not saying this machine is rubbish, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it, it might be the perfect machine for you. I just want to make sure that anyone watching this video decides to buy it makes the decision based on facts and not myths. I'm going to use the machine while reviewing it, but because I can't multitask, we'll film that separately and the very talented Brickoven guys will edit the two together to make it look like I can. What did I press then? So let's jump straight into the myths about this machine before I get into the specs and general info, etc. Myth number 1, it's a one-touch coffee machine. It's called the Breville One Touch Coffee House, so surely it's a one-touch coffee machine. Is it? Really? This is my main problem with this machine. I think calling it the One Touch is implying that it's something it isn't. One Touch bean to cup or fully automatic coffee machines are known as One Touch because you press a button once and the machine does everything else. Yes, these machines have a milk carafe like this, but they're called One Touch machines because they do everything from one touch. This is a portafilter machine. You have to manually dose the basket with ground coffee and tamp it, unless you're using ESE pods, of course, which you can. And yet you can press one button for a cappuccino or latte, so it's one touch from that perspective, but that's really not what a one-touch coffee machine is as far as I'm concerned. So just be aware that although this has a one-touch milk carafe, it's not a one-touch machine in the sense that you can just press a button and walk off with your coffee, as you would with a much more expensive one-touch bean-to-cup coffee machine. Myth number 2, it's a Breville machine, meaning it's a rebadged Sage. This is a mistake some people are making after doing a bit of research and seeing that Sage and Breville are the same firm. Breville Worldwide, who make the Barista Express, Barista Pro, Bambino Plus and various other very popular machines, sell their machines in Europe under the Sage brand, because there's another company in Europe using the Breville brand. They sold the brand name here in the 80s, so they can't use it. So the Breville we know in the UK has nothing to do with Sage. The Breville we know in the UK, this Breville is owned by Newell Brands, who also own the Mr. Coffee brand. Myth number 3, professional quality coffee. Apparently this makes professional barista style cafe quality coffee. This is a pressurised basket machine in the same kind of category as various other machines costing from about £80 upwards. And from using it, I do not agree that this makes professional barista quality coffee, just as I don't believe the other low cost pressurised basket machines do. Myth busting done, so let's get on with it. This is a pressurised basket machine, as most of the entry-level domestic espresso machines are. So what this means is that unlike professional machines or home barista machines, where you have the ability to dial in the grind to give you control over extraction, you just use pre-ground coffee or ESE pods. Or you can grind your own using any grinder, you don't need an espresso-capable grinder. Personally, I think pressurised basket machines are absolutely fine if you're going to be using normal coffee beans from the supermarket, for example, and not freshly roasted coffee beans. If you're wanting to use freshly roasted beans, you'll need to dial in, meaning to make small adjustments to the grind size and with other variables, which you can't really do with these kinds of baskets. This is why Sage include both standard and pressurised baskets with their machines and Gaggia with the Classic, so people who are not using freshly roasted beans can use pressurised baskets. It has a 19-bar pump, and if you watch the promotional video from Breville, you'll be aware that the 19-bar professional quality pump ensures even pressure for a richer, more consistent coffee taste. Just ignore what any brands say about pump pressure. Higher pressure isn't better, and most of these pressurised basket machines are actually creating roughly the same pressure in the basket anyway, regardless of the pump power. Moving on. It has a 1.4 litre water tank, a 600ml milk carafe, a drip tray with 2 cup positions, max cup height is 12 centimetres, and we'll put the dimensions on the screen if we remember. Warm up time about 1 minute 40 seconds. When it comes to the interface, it's all quite simple. You have a pre-programmed side and a custom side. So if you want a small espresso, you press the espresso button once. If you want a large one, you press it twice. One touch? Same with latte and cappuccino. You press them once for small, twice for large, and you'll see the light move so you can see what you've selected. Or if you want an actual latte, not a latte macchiato, then press the custom espresso button and make whatever size espresso you want and then press the foam button. You can adjust the foam level and let's just see what the difference in texture is between the lowest, middle and highest foam setting. Good stuff. Overall, this is a simple machine to use. There's not much in the way of programmability, so if you're someone who just wants a simple machine where they can just select a small or large latte, cappuccino or espresso, you'll probably like this about the machine. The milk is very hot, and I'm actually including this in both the good stuff and the not so good stuff, but there's method to my madness. If you like scorching hot latte and cappuccino, then you'll probably think this is a good thing. It takes the milk to about 75 degrees Celsius. Some people like that. I don't. I think it makes the milk taste burnt, and never take the milk beyond 65 degrees Celsius. The 2-level cup holder is a clever little thing, not a huge thing, but handy. The not so good stuff. The espresso volume is big versus the dose size. I've seen some people asking in the reviews why the colour of the espresso is so light, or why their cappuccino tastes weak, and this is why. We're talking roughly 1:5 to 1:6 ratios. This is on the big side even for lungo. It's more like cafe crema ratio, and to me, a cappuccino or latte made with espresso like this is more like cafe au lait than cappuccino or latte. Ratio means how many parts ground coffee to espresso, so a fairly standard or normale ratio is 1:2, meaning for example 10 grams of ground coffee to 20 grams of espresso, and usually a lungo ratio is about 1:3, maybe 1:4. When I've tested this, it's more like 1:5 or 1:6. You can pull shots using the custom button though if that's an issue for you. The milk frother is loud and it's a bit messy. Every time I've used it, it's made me jump. It's really quite loud and it spits milk all over the place, not just into the cup. The milk is very hot. As I mentioned earlier, some people will like that. I don't. To me, 75 degrees Celsius is way too hot. The milk tastes weird. On the plus side, this does mean if you want to make Americano, you can put water in the milk carafe and turn the froth all the way down and you'll get water more than hot enough for Americano. Americano hack. The text and icons are quite difficult to read and they're constantly getting blasted by steam, so they tend to wear off after a while, although by then you'll probably not need to read them anyway. Tips if you decide to buy this machine or you already have it. I've seen some advice online suggesting that the way to get better coffee from this machine is to jam as much coffee into the basket as you can and to get a proper tamper and tamp it hard. I'd recommend the opposite. These are pressurised baskets, they don't need much tamping and overfilling them won't help. These baskets will actually take quite a fine grind compared to other pressurised baskets, so if you have a grinder, try grinding finer. Or if you're buying pre-ground, see if you can find a finer pre-ground to allow you to dose more into the basket. Just give the coffee a light tamp and make sure there's at least a 5mm gap from the rim. Don't fill it all the way to the top. The main tip for getting a stronger tasting cappuccino and latte from this machine, which I've seen a lot of people asking about, is to drop the ratio. So pull the shot with the custom button and pull a smaller shot. If you don't want to mess around with scales or a shot measure, just time the standard shot and then pull a custom shot at about half that time, or experiment with different times. As I've mentioned, although this doesn't have a hot water button, you can get hot water for Americano by filling up the milk carafe with water. Don't fill the water tank with milk though, because that would be silly. So there you go, that's what I think of the Breville One Touch Coffee House, or the Mr. Coffee One Touch Coffee House if you're across the pond. In a nutshell, I don't like the fact that they've called it a one-touch coffee house because it implies that it's a one-touch coffee machine. I'm not a fan of the very hot milk it produces, but you might be. And I think the espresso volumes are too big, but you can use the custom button. It's a simple machine to use, it's compact and it's relatively inexpensive. If you want to know what machine I'd personally go for if I was wanting a machine at this kind of price point, see the video that will pop up here shortly. We spend a year on the toilet in our lifetime, which has nothing to do with clicking the like button, but click the like button if you're watching this on the toilet, but wash your hands first.
Oi!
Thank you very much for watching, and if you're obsessed with coffee and you enjoyed this video, we've got tons of content about how to make better coffee at home to take you from beginner to home barista. We've got reviews and how-tos on the most popular machines. If you like the sound of that, click on my face to subscribe. Tatty Bye! I can't bloody see the things. What did I press then?
Hey, get out!